Hi guys, it's Amy and welcome back to my channel, Honestly Invisibly Sick. Today is going to be my eye video, and before I get started with that, I just want to get my disclaimer out of the way. I am not a medical professional. This is just my story and what works for me. I want to kind of pick up where I left off in my last video. I'm not sure if I had told you guys about seeing the neurologist. Well, anyway, I had issues with the keratitis, and then my ophthalmologist had noticed in my eye I was not seeing color as vibrantly as I should. So he thought that I had optic neuritis, which is inflammation of the optic nerve, which is behind the eye. And he sent me to the neurologist. Well, I needed to get an MRI of my optic nerve, but my insurance was taking forever. So the neurologist went ahead and infused a 3-day course of steroids. And after this happened, my keratitis went away. I was able to see. My vision came back. It did come out on my MRI that I did not have optic neuritis, thankfully. Wasn't really sure what caused it, but my eyesight got better. I got a good 2 months like this. Then I had to go back to my ophthalmologist because my vision started getting blurry again. And at this time, he determined that I had dry eye, but he couldn't get it under control and didn't know what was causing it. It wasn't like regular dry eye where you take drops and then it's better. We did try the over-the-counter drops, and I remained on them for a while. But when I first got diagnosed with the dry eye and he couldn't figure out what was causing it or get a handle on it, he sent me to university. And at the university, they did all this plethora of tests, and everything came back negative other than I had some kind of autoimmune disease that was causing the dryness in my eye, but they couldn't figure out what it was. I was seronegative for Sjogren's, and I remain seronegative now anytime that they test me, even though I have all the signs and symptoms. I'm just seronegative. So after I got back from the university, my eye doctor just tried to keep it at bay with eye drops. Also, my keratitis came back and my iritis had come back at this time. So I was taking antibiotic drops plus steroid drops. I was on steroid drops for like a whole year and a half. But I had stopped working in October of 2016, and then by December of 2016 I was having real bad pain in my eye. So I went back to the ophthalmologist, and he discovered that I had dry spots on my cornea, which are exactly how they sound. It's dry patches on your cornea, which is caused from the chronic dry eye. And every time that your eyelid goes over these dry patches on your cornea, it is excruciatingly painful. It's like sandpaper. It hurts so bad. So I went back to him. He was trying everything he could think of to get the dry spots to heal. He even put a special lens over my cornea to try to help it heal. It had to come off. It was making it worse. I don't know if the edge of it was hitting on one of the dry spots. I'm not exactly sure, but it was excruciating. So he decided to send me up to another ophthalmologist who specialized in their serum drops. They take your blood, you get your blood drawn, they take your serum into the lab. I'm not exactly sure everything that they do, but you come out with a 45-day supply of eye drops. And I did this once, and usually when somebody has chronic dry eye, you can do this once and it'll reset the natural balance of how your eye functions. Well, I did this 2 more times, and this ophthalmologist could not figure out what was going on and what was causing my dry eye to be so severe. So she said, I gotta send you back to a different university, and hopefully they can figure out what's going on. But in the meantime, we have a cornea specialist here in our office, and I would like for you to see him. So I made the appointment, and I went and saw the cornea specialist. He stopped these special drops. They were highly expensive and it wasn't working, so there was no point to keep taking them. He started me on Celubisic 6 times a day, which is an over-the-counter gel drop. I also take Refresh PM. I take that 6 times a day. I think when I first saw him, my other doctor had told me to take it as needed, and I didn't know how often you were allowed to take it during the day, because you're really only supposed to take it 1 time a day, but I was taking it as often as I needed, and it was way more than I should be. So he cut me back to 6 times a day on that, and that was kind of hard to get cut back on it. I didn't know this at the time though. If you take that PM refresh more often than 6 times a day, it actually can do more harm than good. So when I stepped down to 6 times a day, even though it was painful and I had like a good 2-week transition to where I had pain in my eye from these dry spots on my cornea rubbing with my eyelid, after that it did get better. My eyesight got better because these drops are so thick. It's like an ointment, almost like Neosporin you're putting in your eye, and it makes it where you can't see. So I wasn't able to drive myself at all during this time because I was taking these gel drops so often, or this gel in my eye so often. So he cut me back on that, and he added Restasis. And I take Restasis twice a day, even to this day. And Restasis is kind of like an immunosuppressant for your eye. It helped a little bit, but there was no real big improvement. It was just a slight improvement, but you'll take what you get. Also at this time, I think I had another bout of iritis, and I still had the keratitis. I had the iritis had cleared up, but then I got it again, but I still had the keratitis, and it was not going away. So he was trying to aggressively treat it as best he could. And he kept at it and trying things, and eventually the keratitis went away, and the iritis went away, and I was able to come off the steroid drops. I was so excited when I was able to come off the steroid drops because I had been on them for 1.5 years. And steroids have side effects, and I was just happy to be off of them. So after that, I believe it was July of 2017, I had an ulcer that opened up on my left eye. I didn't even know it at the time that it was there. I just knew that my eyesight was getting worse and I had more pain in my eye. This stayed open from July. Oh, I didn't tell you what an ulcer is. An ulcer is an open sore on your eye that is incredibly hard to heal, especially if you have dry eye, because when you have dry eye, your tears naturally usually wash the bacteria out of your eye. But when you have dry eye, your tears do not wash the bacteria out of your eye. You either don't produce enough tears, or you don't produce the right kind of tears for it to really flush it out. So it stayed open until March of the next year. And it did not get better until I got my lupus diagnosis, and I was started on the Plaquenil, and I had been on the Plaquenil for about 2 months, and then it began to heal. So it took a little while. It was a slow process of it healing, but it did heal. And I was so grateful. I had no idea that I had it because my doctor never told me that I had it, and I'm not mad because I would have been a nervous wreck. I was already worried about losing my eyesight anyway because we really don't know exactly what's causing my eyes to be so aggressively dry and causing all of the other plethora of conditions that I have that I'm going to get into in a minute. But I would have been beside myself for 8 months for no reason. There was nothing I could do. So he was worrying about it for me, and I'm so grateful for that. He is such an awesome doctor. So now I'll get into the eye conditions that I currently have and what we're doing for them. Well, it's kind of the same thing. I stay on the same regimen, the Celubisic, the PM Refresh ointment and my Refresh PM. And of course I take my lupus meds because that's made a huge difference. Before I started my lupus meds, I couldn't see very well. And now that I started the lupus meds, it's really improved my dry eye. So it's improved my vision, and obviously improving my vision by healing up the ulcer that was on my eye. So I currently have, of course, the chronic dry eye, severe chronic dry eye. I also have keratoconjunctivitis. I keep that. It's never healed up. I always have that. I don't take antibiotics or steroid drops for that anymore. It's just controlled by the dryness of my eye. When that is controlled, then the keratoconjunctivitis will be controlled as well. I also have 2 adhesions on my cornea, and I have never gotten an exact answer from my doctor to tell me exactly what caused the adhesions to come up, but I believe that it is. I have times where, and have had in the past times where my eyes get so dry that my eyelids will get stuck to my eye in the middle of the night. Well, whenever I put the gel drop in and I'm working my eye trying to get it to come off, I believe that it has pulled a piece of my cornea off, just like a tiny little layer off, not like the whole cornea, but like the top layer of the cornea off, because it's like your cornea is like skin. It has different levels to it. So I really think that that's what's caused them. And again, because I have chronic dry eye, they're not healing like they should. So it's something that I just constantly keep. I also wanted to tell you guys, I forgot to mention this, another thing that my doctor did to help me is he installed duct plugs in my tear ducts. Not the tear ducts that produce the tears, but where it keeps your tears from draining back in your eye so quickly. I have 4. I have one in the lowers and one in the uppers. And that is why you see my eyes tear all the time, because my tears don't flow out like they need to, or like they should. They need to be how they are, because it is helping a little bit. I've had these plugs for a long time. I think like 6 months after I saw him or so. And before I started my lupus meds, my eyes never teared. Well, one of my plugs fell out in my left eye, and when I replaced it, I noticed that my eye never stopped tearing. And then another one fell out my right eye, and the same thing, it never stopped tearing. So they just constantly tear. It's annoying, but I deal with it, because the alternative to having the plugs in my eye is that my eyes will be even more severely dry. So even if this just helps a smidget, I will deal with my eyes tearing and looking like I'm crying all the time. I just think it's ironic, because I could never cry, and I still can never cry with my own tears. They just constantly run. So I think it's ironic that now I have tears constantly coming out of my eyes. I also have filaments on my cornea. Filaments are strings of mucus. It's kind of gross, but it is what it is. They're strings of mucus, and usually they would just wash right out of your eye. Well, mine don't wash right out of my eye. They stick to my cornea, and they're there all the time. I imagine that if I didn't take the PM drops, it probably would be painful, because they hang off of your cornea like strings. So every time that my eye blinks, it kind of moves them around in my eye. So I imagine that would be very painful. I still have, to this day, dry spots on my eyes. I think I got my first dry spots, like I said, in 2016. We're in 2019, and I still have dry spots that haven't healed. I have a few that have healed, and where they have healed, I have scars. I have lots of scars on my corneas. Both of my corneas are very scarred up, and I don't mean smooth scars, they're bumpy scars. So again, that's another reason why I have to take that PM ointment, so that my eyelid can just glide right over my eye. I also have, this is a lot trying to remember everything, damage to my optic nerve. It's not optic neuritis like the neurologist thought, or my other ophthalmologist thought, and it didn't even show up until the beginning of this year. But I do have damage to both of my optic nerves. We're not exactly sure what caused it or what is causing it. It could either be, my doctor said it could either be a hereditary condition, which I don't really know anybody in my family that has that has damage to their optic nerve. I know my sister has, like, her optic nerve is narrow. She has a narrowing of her optic nerve, but she doesn't have damage. Oh, or it could be glaucoma. Glaucoma is an eye pressure disease where your pressure can get really high. So we have to monitor that very diligently, and I have to make sure that I keep all of my appointments, because glaucoma is the #1 reason that people go blind in America. So I just have to be very diligent with it. I also have to be very diligent with constantly keeping my face washed. I don't use fancy face washes. I use a bar of Dial soap and a rag. I have tried, I used to use the makeup wipes, or the cleaning wipes for your face, and I kept going back to my eye doctor, and he's like, you have a lot of bacteria on your eyes. And he said, I'm going to have to give you some wipes to use on your eyes because they're not clean. And I said, well, hold on, let me try just washing my face with regular Dial soap. And I did that, and ever since that day, that keeps the bacteria down, and I want to make sure that I keep the bacteria levels down as much as I can around my eyes, because that will help prevent another ulcer from coming. I also wanted to mention that I do have phlebitis, which is the inflammation of the eyelid, and washing my face helps to keep the phlebitis down, the inflammation of my eyelids down. Oh, and also with my optic nerve damage, it causes facial numbness. Like, above my lip is numb. It's numb to the touch. Also above both of my eyelids and up close to my temples on both sides of my face. I'm kind of used to it now. It doesn't really bother me. It actually works in my favor when I pluck my eyebrows or wax them on the top. It doesn't hurt as bad as the bottom. But all of these conditions that I have all work together to diminish my sight, and they're all caused from an autoimmune disease. I would have never had the dry eye or all the bouts that I've had with my iritis, which every time you have a bout with iritis, I know for me, it has taken a little bit more of my sight every time I have a bout of it, especially when I have a bout that will not heal. So having that so often and having the keratitis so often, it takes a toll on my eyesight. And of course the optic neuritis, or not optic neuritis, I'm sorry, the optic nerve damage takes a toll on my eyesight as well. And my right eye, as you guys will recall from earlier in the video, I said I don't see color clearly or vibrantly in my right eye. That's never went away. I'm not sure if that's caused from the optic nerve damage, but it probably is, or it could be from all the times of having the iritis, because my right eye was always the eye that it was more prevalent in, and it just constantly attacked that right eye all the time. So I think that's it. I think I covered everything. If you have any of these eye conditions, just leave a comment down below and let me know I'm not alone. And also, if you have any questions about any of the eye conditions that I have, just again leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer them. If you're struggling through any of these eye diseases, I will be happy to help you. People don't really know how bad eye pain hurts. Eye pain is one of the worst pains that you can have. I remember having, when I first had the dry spots and I was going to see the specialist, and I would just sit around and I would shake because it hurt so bad, and there really was nothing that they could do other than try to have it lubricated, or try to keep the eye lubricated. So just if you have it, if you're going through it, just leave a comment down below if you have any questions about how I can help you or anything like that. If you're just going through it and you need somebody to support you, I'm here. If you need prayer, I'm here. Just keep your head up, keep muddling through, and that's it. Don't forget to check out my Facebook page. Like this video, subscribe if you can, and don't forget to click the bell so that you get updated on all of my videos as they come out. I will be posting on Fridays from now on, and I think that's it. All right, have a blessed day. Bye.